Good. Thank you. This little lace was sarcasm. I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Marcy Scoggins, the chair of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board. This regular meeting of the MCSAB is being held today, Monday, December the 8th, 2025 at 1 p.m. The notice of this meeting, which includes the date, time, place, purpose, and identified the attendance available to the public, has been posted. Minutes of this meeting will be recorded. This meeting is being called to order at 1:05 p.m. on Monday, December 8th, 2025. This time we will move to the establishment of a quorum. As I call the names of the board members, please state the location of your presence for this meeting. Jay Carney,
Present boardroom.
Carol Gary,
Present boardroom.
Candace Hunt,
Present boardroom.
Aaron Meyer,
Present boardroom.
Ben Morgan,
President of the Health Conference.
Candace Robbins,
Present boardroom.
and I'm Marcy Scoggins, and I'm also present in the boardroom. A quorum is present for conducting business. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and an invocation. And I've asked our board member, Jay Carney, to finish. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Spire head. Father, we just humbly come to you today during this holiday season. And Lord, this is a day that you have made, and we rejoice and we are glad in it. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the great state of Mississippi. And thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to serve on this board, the Charter School Board, which is trying their best to serve students throughout this state. Lord, I pray for the administrators. I pray for the leadership. And Lord, we pray for the students. Lord, you said, except we come to you as a little child, we cannot enter to the kingdom of heaven. Lord, I pray you give us wisdom in making wise decisions. Lord, we ask you to bless our efforts today. It's in Jesus' name we pray. And everyone say amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Please identify yourself for the record.
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Is there a second?
I second Candace Hunt.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to officer elections. I'm not out of order, am I? I will entertain nominations for the position of board chair. Is there a nomination?
I second that nomination.
Thank you. Are there other nominations? I will entertain a motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
I'm sorry.
Carol.
Carol, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. Now I will entertain a motion to elect Candace Hunt to serve as board chair. Is there a motion?
So moved, Aaron Meyer.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Jay Carney.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving on, I will entertain nominations for the position of vice chair.
Aaron Meyer, I nominate Ben to serve again as vice chair.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Candace Robbins.
Thank you. Any discussion? Oh, at this point, I'll now entertain a motion to close those nominations. Is
So
there,
moved, Jay Carney.
thank you. Is there a second?
I second Carol Gary.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Now I'll entertain a motion to elect Ben Morgan to serve as vice chair. Is there a motion?
I so move Candace Robbins.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Jay Carney.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much and congratulations to our new board chair and vice chair.
Thank you.
I couldn't be happier for both of you. At this point, I'll move on to the approval of minutes of the October 27th, 2025 regular monthly meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Please identify yourself for the record.
I move we approve. Candace Hunt.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second it, Carol Gary.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'm sorry.
We'll let,
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna abstain because I wasn't even present for that meeting.
Got it. Thank you. We'll make a note. Y'all, sorry. I'm having issues. I may have to get
Jordan.
Jordan to come open this. I just need this to go back. Just see if I can. Okay, click that. Got it. That'll work. Okay. Just click that again. Notice it. I'll do it. I'll figure it out. Thank you. I don't have a chair report, so we will move along while Jordan is trying to help me over here. And I will let Dr. Karmachara make her executive director report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. Just for my report, relatively short and sweet today, just as always, to call your attention to the newsletter that Bree puts together for us every month. It is absolutely full of great information, and we continually add more and more people to that listserv. So more and more folks are getting copies of this important information. So just drawing your attention to that. The second item for me is a reminder to all of our board members and all governing board members. Everybody who is a public servant, myself included, have to complete a statement of economic interest, and that is through the Secretary of State's office. It's a simple way to do it. You go on. Did I say Secretary of State? And I meant the Ethics Commission. So let me just withdraw what I said. But the state, it's on their website. It's simple to complete. And if you're a leader here and your governing board members haven't completed that, just make sure you communicate that to them, because it's a responsibility for them as well as all of us. So that's a gentle reminder. The next piece of information under my report is just wanted to just flag this for you. The State Board of Education in November approved the new cut scores for the accountability model. So you know that all of our schools are subject to the state accountability model, which is the A through F performance level cut scores. Our schools currently are on the 700s point model, and our high schools in the state, and soon to be high schools in the state, will be under the 1,000-point scale. You can see where the Center for Assessment has the recommended cut scores with preliminary data, what that impact might look like compared from this year to next year. So all of that is in your board packet. It's relatively simple. You can see the proposed cut score, what it was. So for example, to be an A, this year you had to be a 442. Next year you would have to be a 447. To be a B, a 337 this year, and a 402 next year. So each one of those increase over time, and then you'll see that there is a little bit of an increase over time in the number of D and F rated districts, because that is going to be a little more difficult for schools to be able to maintain the growth that they've had over time. So that is informational only. And in the back, you can see what members were a part of that. So you see superintendents, you see assistant superintendents, you'll see state representatives who were all a part of the panel that worked to ensure that this was put together appropriately for the state. The next item that I have is not listed on the agenda, but I'm going to ask Tolliver McMullen from Matthews, Kater and Lindsay, and Letitia Johnson. Denise, if you could you can scoot over or sit in Kathy's lap or something. Just scoot back one or something there. I'm going to ask them to come forward, and once they get settled, I'll tee up what they are going to share with you today. Okay. All right. Thank you. So some of you may know Mr. McMullen from Matthews, Kater and Lindsay. Some of you may not. And I know there are board members here that are new to his space. So Tolliver has worked with us in the past on financial questions that we had relative to expenditures and organizational structures and what works in terms of auditing and whether or not schools should use this model or that model and so forth and so on. So he's provided a wealth of information to the board in the past and guided the board in decision making with respect to the school's financial health. This year, he also has worked with us on the school's FY25 audits. He has been able to meet with some of our school leaders and their auditors, as well as some of their team members at the school level. Tolliver, do you want to say anything about your experience and share anything? I don't want to.
No, just in general, I'm a shareholder in Matthews, Kater and Lindsay, CPA in Jackson. Got 17 years of experience in public accounting in various industries and so forth.
Thank you for that. And then all of you know Letitia Johnson, who is our in-house director of school finance. And she too has worked diligently on the financial framework reports, on looking at quarterly financials, on all of the questions that that are raised during the annual review of the frameworks. And so she's done an amazing job. She too met with our school leaders as well as some of the school leaders auditors that participated in the FY25 audit. They are going to give you, as the board, an overview. They're going to talk to you about what's important for you to know as a board member when you're thinking about the financial health of the charter schools. They're going to talk to you about what some things mean. For example, if you might see language around a material weakness or a material finding or an internal control question, things like that. So Tolliver is going to take the lead, I think, on defining information for you because, as you know, you have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that our schools are fiscally and financially healthy, long-term and short-term. And so it's really important that you understand what we're looking at in the frameworks. Letitia's going to dig in a little bit deeper and give you some FY25 information, and then both will be able to answer any questions that you might have with respect to the financial health of our schools and our school portfolio. So any questions before I turn it over to them? Okay. All right. I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Just as Lisa mentioned, I'm here to provide some clarity on auditing and accounting terminology. Hopefully this may be useful later on in the meeting.
Can we give him a microphone?
So Ben can hear, yeah.
Just move or, okay.
Yeah, you'll have to talk up so Ben can hear you and Laurel.
Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me now. First thing I'd like to talk about are internal controls. In any organization, internal controls are what are considered the day-to-day policies and procedures that an organization puts in place to ensure the assets are safeguarded, that information that is reported is reliable, and the laws and the internal policies of the organization are followed. There are two different types of internal controls. One is considered preventative. So this would be segregation of duties in cash handling, meaning you don't want somebody that is receiving the cash to also be recording cash because there's a risk that they wouldn't record it. Another preventative type control is reconciliation of bank accounts. This just makes sure that all transactions are recorded in a timely manner. And then IT access are just a couple of brief examples, just give people access to the information they need. Detective type controls are generally management review of financial information. So you have preventative controls and detective controls, okay? So the purpose of internal controls are to reduce errors, fraud, and non-compliance in a timely manner. Okay. So when you have these controls and you put them in place, there are things that may come up that are called internal control deficiencies. Deficiencies occur when the internal controls are not designed properly or they're not put in place to where misstatements or errors are not identified and corrected in a timely manner. So within control deficiencies, you have two different types. You have a significant deficiency and a material weakness. A significant deficiency means that the controls are not operating properly. It may not be a major issue yet, but it could lead to one down the road. And then you also have material weaknesses. These are more severe, and these basically are issues where things are allowed to happen currently and are not being prevented or detected in a timely manner. An example of a material weakness is 6 months of accounting transactions go by and are not recorded because nobody's reconciled the bank account. Or there's a lack of approval for purchasing or buying products and paying invoices. And then also, if there's a lack of monitoring of the actual financial performance is ongoing, that's a material weakness. So, and I know this is not an accounting class, and I'm trying to be brief and, cover the basics, but does that make sense? Does there need to be any clarification of that? Then also something may come up later is in auditing called going concern. Going concern is the accounting assumption that an entity will continue operating for the foreseeable future. And this means that they will be able to meet their debt obligations as they do. So during every audit, the auditors are required to evaluate going concern. If an auditor issues substantial doubt about the ability to continue, this just means that they have doubt that that the business or organization is going to be able to meet its obligations as they become due within the next 12 months. So there's a significant risk that the entity will no longer be in operation. And I'm not going to get into the details of how that's calculated and so forth, but generally, going concern is not something good that you want to see in any financial statement. I understand generally people don't like auditors. So it is important that, when you do have an audit that's going on, that you comply with the auditors, you provide the information to them in a timely manner. The people that are using the financial statements are making decisions based on the entity's behalf by looking at the financial statements, audited financial statements. And that could be banks, that could be lenders, or that could be the authorizer board. So it's very important to make sure that all the information is given to them in a timely manner to where the auditors can provide the best opinion that they have at that point in time. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one other just thought. Can you talk about the differences between the types of letters that come with a financial audit. So, and some people may or may not understand who the management is and who the organization is. And some go into a little bit more detail on that maybe, and then
Sure.
the different types of letters that we should see when we receive
Okay.
an audit.
Well, in general, an entity like a school, they may prepare their financial statements and so forth, but the board of that school is the ultimate party that's responsible for the school's financial performance. There, when you get a audited financial statement, you receive the actual audited financials, which includes the numbers and so forth, but you also receive two letters, what's called a SAS 114, a SAS 115 letter. One of those letters talks about internal controls, and it addresses internal controls that became aware to the auditor during their audit. And then the other just basically, it talks about, how the audit was performed. Was there any issues that were incurred during the audit? Were the auditors able to receive the information in a timely manner, and so forth?
And then one other, does the organization itself have to sign off on a letter too? To sit,
Yes, the
Okay.
organization, the people in charge of the financial statements, they sign off saying that we have provided you with all information that's been requested. It's accurate, it's reliable, and so forth.
yeah, thank you. So there are 3 primary letters. Thank you.
So to all of the board members at the table, you received a spreadsheet. And this is just going to be a summary of the information that was presented on our framework. It'll tell, listed all of our schools, and it's going to list the physical health of our schools, the days cash on hand, what the cash amount on hand, the enrollment variance, whether they had a material weakness, whether the audit report was submitted late, whether the quarterly reports were submitted late, and one column was omitted, but I'm going to tell you about that, and that's future trainings that will be provided by the Mississippi Charter School Authorized Board. So I'll start with the schools, and for the sake of those who don't have a copy, I'm going to just give definitions of the physical health of the schools. So we start with our first school. We have Ambition Health, and it's stable. Stable, that means a school with consistent revenue growth. They have low debt and sufficient cash flow. We have Clarksdale Collegiate. They're listed as insolvent or going concern. That means a situation where a school's short-term liabilities exceed cash. So just in the short term, they don't have enough cash to pay those short-term liabilities. A going concern is, Tolliver told us early, as a school is likely to survive for the next 12 months. They had a going concern in their audit where the auditor was just not sure of the likelihood of anything after 12 months. Instant Impact, they just had a few cash flow problems, and cash flow is persistent, a lack of sufficient cash inflow to cover cash outflow. LaFleur Legacy, they were insolvent for FY25, but they were able to successfully refinance their loans in FY26 for a 5-year period. So they were able to remove from the insolvent position. Midtown Public, stable is a school with consistent revenue growth, low debt, and sufficient cash flow. Reimagine Prep, profitable. Revive, insolvent. Smilo Collegiate, profitable. Smilo Prep, profitable. SR1, net loss. And net loss is a school total expenses are greater than its total revenue for a specific period, resulting in a negative loss. So I'll talk a little bit more about SR. I'm on that one, and I'll go up. SR1 with a net loss, so they had 1 day of cash on hand. So NASA standard says that the school should have 30 to 60 days cash on hand. SR had 1. With Smilo Prep, they had 414 days of cash on hand, which they are listed as profitable. That school, we will be meeting with them to determine the lowest volume of cash on hand, because like I said, NASA is 30 to 60. That's 414. That's a lot of days of cash on hand. So we just want to know if they have plans. They may have plans for big expenditures just to know the reason behind that. Smilo Collegiate, they have 469 days of cash on hand. A meeting will be held with them as well. Revive, they have 79 days of cash on hand. Reimagine Prep, 243 days of cash on hand. We'll meet with them. Midtown, they have 50 days of cash on hand. Midtown had a little something different happen with them when we get to the enrollment variance side. So they had project enrollment of 400, but their actual enrollment was 420. So they were able to increase their cash because their enrollment that what they projected, they actually exceeded what they projected, which was good because they increased their cash. LaFleur Legacy, they had 200 days of cash on hand. Instant Impact had 52 days of cash on hand. Clarksdale Collegiate had 82 days of cash on hand, and Ambition Prep had 159 days of cash on hand. I'll move over to talk about the enrollment variance. Now, enrollment variance, we compare what was submitted on the budget that was submitted to the board approved budget, their board approved budget. So what was approved versus what was the actual enrollment that came from the Mississippi Department of Education that was submitted in MSIS. So I'll just go through the two that you see that they had issues. Everyone else was okay. So we had two that there were a little difference in. So we see with LaFleur Legacy, their projected enrollment was 300. The actual enrollment was 203. So that was enrollment variance of 97, difference of 97. So when there are enrollment variance with the charter schools, their MSF funding is reconciled. And so for the 25 funding, it will be reconciled in 26. So whatever the difference was, so if it was 97 students less, that difference will be reduced from the FY26, which is this year funding. So that's the estimated amount of $650,000 that will reduce from FY26. On SR1, they projected enrollment was 225 this is for 25 year. The actual enrollment was 87. So that's a difference of 138, which would be an estimated decrease in their FY26 funding of $1 million. And that will take place in this year. Material weaknesses, this is based on the FY25 audit report. There was only one school that had material weakness, and that was SR1 around the financial closing process. And that was with the bank reconciliations, year-end closing, posting of journal entries, posting of expenses to the books. So they had material weakness around closing process. For the late audit submissions, we only had one school that was late with audit submissions, and that was SR1. That audit report was submitted on October the 29th. Late quarterly reports, and all schools are required to submit quarterly reports of revenue, showing their revenues and expenses each quarter. We asked them to submit budget to actual. So we would need to know each quarter, what was budgeted, what was actual. So there are late submissions that come in. So you will see listed all of the schools that they may not have been late for each quarter, but one of the quarters in the FY25 year, they were late. And so we see we had in some time, Clarksdale would have been late. Instant was late for one of those quarters. Reimagine Prep was late, Revive was late, Smilo Collegiate late, and Smilo Prep was late. Now, on our schools that are having financial is a problem with financials, maybe it's cash flow problems or whatever the situation is, we are taking strides to meet with those schools. So we have had a meeting with them, and we're going to schedule meetings after all of this here, everything happened and they received letters. We're going to meet with Clarksdale Collegiate. We will be meeting with them monthly. Instant Impact, we will be meeting with them quarterly. LaFleur Legacy, we will be meeting with them quarterly, and SR1, we will be meeting with them monthly. And we want to have monthly meetings to review their revenues and expenses, their cash flow reports. We want to see how that we can help them, to see what's going on, to see is it anything that can be changed in order to help the schools to be successful and to see if there's anything that we can help them to do. Are there any questions?
No questions. I'll just say this, and I'll call out Dr. Dixon. He's back here in the room. So I just want to say thank you. John, most of you know John now. Dr. Dixon, he is our Mississippi Charter School Association Executive Director. He and I've had several conversations about how the association can pick up some of the work in terms of support for the schools where we're seeing trends, whether it's in academics or financials or organizational health of the school. So we've met multiple times, had good conversations around that. Recently, I sent him some information on a gentleman that our staff has been able to engage with, and that we bought one of his books for the schools for all of our schools for back to school. So Raj Thankar, who wrote one of these really simple, easy to follow financial books, we'd love to have him be able to come and engage with the schools. And so we'll continue to talk and see what makes sense around supporting them. Every one of the schools are different. They have different enrollment. They have different dynamics. They have different grade level configurations. They have different levels of support within the community. They have different challenges in the community, where depending on where they're located. And so having somebody like Dr. Dixon, and then as well as Dr. Bass at Mississippi First, to really work with, to team up and provide supports for the schools where and when it makes sense for us to be a connector, or to help provide financial support, whatever we can do. So I'm just grateful for the relationship, and appreciate, John, you being here and working with us on that. So thank you for that.
Thank you both. Thank you as always, to Dr. Dixon and Dr. Bass for their continued support. We appreciate y'all.
And no questions.
No,
Anybody have?
no other questions? Okay, I think
All
we
right.
will move right along then to our financial report, and we'll let y'all do a little shuffling. And Miss Denise DeRossa is here to make her presentation.
Thank you, Jay. My report will be brief. It covers the last 5 weeks since y'all last met, from October 25th till December 3rd. I do want to point out that last time you met, you changed the budget. You had a budget modification. And so your current set of financial statements now reflects that budget modification. At the end of November, we had completed 42% of the year. Routine monthly items are on track at that same spending level. There are a few items that are paid in arrears. And so those are tracking to where we expect them to be, about 33% instead of the 42%. The only item that I really want to highlight is your commodity budget. Your commodity budget looks like it's out of whack because it looks like you spent 45% of the budget at this point in the year. But I do want to remind you that you added $10,000 to that line item for the schools, and that was added after the fact that we had spent money for the schools. So all the expenses are showing against that $20,000 operational. Want to say
Is that the
something?
back to school,
Yes,
the books and the things that we bought for them?
that's right. And also the food
Okay.
and things like that. So we can get an assessment of that. But if you look at both of those lines together, you're only at about 50% of your commodity budget. So it's nothing to worry about at all. The state has changed the amount of health insurance that has to be paid by the agency. That goes into effect this month. It's a 6.5% increase, but it is not anything you need to worry about because we knew it was coming and we budgeted for that. And so there's nothing that needs to be done. I just wanted to make y'all aware of that. And the good news is that the state employees have no cost to them for that increased cost. It's all being borne by the agency. And then there's a couple of other budget issues I just want to mention. We had the Epicenter contract, and that it was modified in August, but on your budget report, it still shows the original contract amount. So what we need to do is just increase the part in the budget. You have a line item of about 152,000 that is used for to be determined as things come up during the year. So we're just going to move that $12,500 from that to be determined line item into the Epicenter so that it's reflected of where your expenses actually are. So there's nothing, again, no action needed except for me to just clean up the report a little bit. Do you have a question?
Do you want to talk about the Epicenter that we were going to have on there? Do you want to go into, you want me to?
You can do it if you want, or I can, either way.
Go ahead.
Okay, so it came up that there was some increases in that contract to do some scorecards developments, and so y'all entered into a contract to increase that contract to allow for that. And then it came up that it looked like they wanted to do another scorecard because that one is so effective, and so we were asked to look at the budget and increase that contract. Well, when I got to looking at it, there was enough money in that contract. It had 28,000 already in it. And the amount that they anticipate spending in the current fiscal year is only 24,000. So we had the contract already in place. So there was no reason to modify it or increase it because the contract agreement was there in August.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. And then just wanted to let you know that the legislature will be back in session in January. And they had sent out a request to see if y'all wanted a hearing at the Appropriations Committee. And that has been turned back in, saying, yes, we definitely want appropriation hearings in both the House and the Senate. My understanding is that the House is planning on having their hearings all in January. And depending on who the subcommittee chairman is, when they'll be meeting, but the House expects to have all of the hearings completed in January. The Senate is not so sure at this point when they'll get to their hearings because they had some changes in the leadership, and so they're having to change who's on the committees. And that, as of last week, had not heard that has been completed. So they may be in February before we get finalized on those. Okay. And then the last thing on my report is for your internal control assessment, which is interesting that Tyler has just talked about that. So we actually do an internal control assessment of the agency every year, and it's done on the prior fiscal year, and it's due in December. The state gives us 15 sets of questionnaires that we have to ask and go through. Those questionnaires are not 15 questions. Some of those questionnaires have 30 to 100 questions on each questionnaire. So we have gone through that process, and I want to tell you that you have very strong internal controls in place. There's no weaknesses, no deficiencies, or anything like that. One of the things that we do check is we look at your website, and we also look at the statement of economic interest, which had been in Lisa's report already. We did notice that there were some board members who had not completed that statement in the last year. So I will urge you to do that. And why that's important is it lets you know if there's any kind of conflict of interest. And so if we wanted to hire a certain vendor and you actually have stock in that vendor's company or something like that, we would have that knowledge. And so that's why filling out those reports is very important. And then the only other thing that I noticed, we like to look at the website just to see, is there enough information there for the general public? Do you have your mission statements? Do you have things like that? The only thing that we noticed that was not there was a link to your budget request to the legislature. And that is a state requirement. And so just like you heard in the last report, part of your internal controls is reviewing your own financial reports, and y'all do a very good job of that because you have me come every single meeting and tell you what's going on. So, and that concludes my report unless you have questions for me.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I do not believe we have any committee reports. but we do have 4 guests with us that have requested public comments. Before we get to that, because we have some new board members, I just would like to remind the board members that this is a time for us to hear and to listen. There's not really, we're to listen and hear what they want to say, and then we'll go on to the next thing. It's not necessary that we respond or take action upon every request. So I'll remind the board of that. For our guest, please limit your comments to 5 minutes because we have several, and then we have some other business we need to move on to as well. First up, we have Dr. Tamala Boyd-Shaw, who's the Executive Director of LaFleur Legacy. She has requested to give public comments.
Thank you. I think I project loudly enough. It's not turning green, so we'll continue to move forward, especially in this vein, since we've heard a lot of conversation about school financial situations. And I actually am hopeful that the board decides to take some actions. So I'll just move forward with my comments, and starting with good afternoon, Chairperson Scoggins, members of the board, Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board staff, and Executive Director, Dr. Karmacharya. Thank you all so very much for the opportunity to speak before you this afternoon. As you heard, my name is Dr. Tamala Boyd-Shaw, and I serve as the founder and Executive Director of LaFleur Legacy Academy Public Charter School in Greenwood, Mississippi. We are now in our 6th year of operation, and we are honored to have recently received a 5-year renewal from this board, an affirmation of the quality, consistency, and stability we have worked diligently to build for the families we serve in and around LaFleur County since opening in the midst of the global pandemic in 2020. I am here this afternoon to respectfully appeal the financial rating assigned to LaFleur Legacy Academy for the 24-25 annual performance framework. As you know, the performance framework is an objective, evidence-based tool composed of 3 domains: academic, financial, and organizational. Our school has consistently met expectations in this area throughout our charter term. Based on the documented evidence in this year's framework calculator, LaFleur Legacy Academy once again meets expectations for the financial performance domain. However, the rating reported to the board, to you, does not reflect that evidence. Despite the calculator showing a rating of meets expectations, the executive director exercised professional judgment to downgrade our performance to approaches expectations. I want to be clear. I fully respect the role of the executive director and even the use of professional judgment when circumstances arise that cannot be captured by the framework. But in this instance, board members, there is no such circumstance. I also openly acknowledge the struggles with the financial metric of the framework that you've heard and that we continue to address as we maintain a stable financial foundation. The documented evidence, fiscal indicators, audit findings, and even lender assessments all align directly with a rating of meets expectations. To further support this, our independent auditors have provided a letter affirming our strong financial standing. Our institutional lenders, who are the true financial experts with direct ongoing oversight of our fiscal health, along with our board members, have also agreed to submit a letter if required, confirming that our financial position is sound and in full compliance with their standards. If professional judgment is to be applied, it should be grounded in objective external evidence. In this case, that evidence overwhelmingly supports the rating produced by the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board's own framework calculator. This issue is not merely symbolic. An inaccurate performance rating has very real implications for our school.
It can materially impact our ability to secure facilities financing, to expand access for families who choose us, and to pursue growth opportunities that directly benefit students of Greenwood and surrounding areas. A rating that contradicts the documented evidence places an unnecessary and unwarranted barrier on our future. Therefore, board members, I respectfully request that the board uphold the integrity of its performance framework and move to adopt the financial rating as determined by the evidence in the calculator meets expectations. LaFleur Legacy Academy has demonstrated consistent financial stewardship, responsible governance, and a clear commitment to compliance. We ask only that our performance be evaluated transparently and equitably according to the standards established by this board and this office. Thank you so much for your time, your service, and your consideration of this request.
Thank you so much, Dr. Boyd Shaw. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Up next, we have Miss Amanda Johnson, who's the Executive Director of Clarksdale Collegiate, and she has also requested to give public comments.
Chair Schlotz, is it okay if Ms. Good goes first, our director of
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Certainly. So this is Miss Shakita Gooden. Did I pronounce your name
You
correctly?
did.
She is the Director of Operations at Clarksdale Collegiate, and she has requested to give public comments. Thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having me. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. My name, like she stated, is Shakita Gooden, and I'm the Director of Operations for Clarksdale Collegiate Public Charter School. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comments. I am here today to address the school's overall financial performance rating for the 2024-2025 school year. Based on the charter school's contract, which I have here with me today, in the authorizer's own performance framework, that rating should be meets expectations. This is not a request for leniency or special treatment. It is a request for accurate application of the accountability system we mutually agreed on to follow. Under Section 5.1 of the Charter Contract, Clarksdale Collegiate's financial performance shall be evaluated in conformity with the financial standards set forth in the Mississippi Charter School Performance Framework, and the authorizer will rely primarily on the performance standards set forth in the Performance Framework when assigning ratings. Clarksdale Collegiate's contract, which I have with me today. That framework established 9 specific financial indicators grouped into short-term financial health, long-term financial health, and financial management and oversight. Each indicator has defined cut scores that determine whether a school meets, approaches, or fails to meet expectations. In the 2024-2025 draft annual performance framework report, Clarksdale Collegiate met expectations on 7 of the 9 indicators, approached expectations on 1 indicator, failed to meet expectations on 1 indicator. That means the school met expectations on nearly 80% of the established financial criteria, including all indicators related to long-term financial health and financial management practices. That framework workbook provided with the draft report confirms that these results corresponds to an overall rating of meet expectations. Clarksdale Collegiate's letter 2. Despite this, the draft reports assigns Clarksdale Collegiate an overall rating of fails to meet expectations. That outcome is not supported by the framework scoring rubric. That contract language or the underlying data, the authorizer staff has indicated that professional judgment has used and determined this rating. We acknowledge that professional judgment has a role in interpreting evidence. However, under the charter contract, professional judgment cannot override or replace the objective performance framework that the board is required to rely on primarily. The performance framework is incorporated into the contract precisely to ensure evaluations are objective, consistent, transparent, and fair. Using professional judgment, supersedes, the framework's calculated outcome, undermines that purpose and conflicts with the contract's requirements. I also want to address the timing and substance of the concerns that appear to be driving the overall rating. The single fails indicator reflects a forward-looking refinance issue. Refinancing a standard audit disclosure. That disclosure does not describe financial mismanagement, default, or instability during the 2024-2025 fiscal year. The performance framework is an annual evaluation of financial performance during the year under review. Clarksdale Collegiate's audit confirms that the 2024-25, the school demonstrated strong financial controls, sound management practices, timely reporting, and overall financial stability. A going concern disclosure is inherently forward-looking. It does not change the reality that the school's finances were well managed in 2024-2025. Using a hypothetical future risk to negate an entire year of objectively measured performance is not consistent with the design or intent of the performance framework. In short, the contract requires reliance on the framework's objective indicators. The indicators show Clarksdale Collegiate met expectations overall. Professional judgment cannot negate those results. The ratings must reflect 2024-25 performance, not speculate future conditions. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the board correct Clarksdale Collegiate's overall financial performance ratings to meet expectations. Consistent with the charter's contract, the performance framework, and the documented financial records. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Gooden. Now we'll hear from Ms. Amanda Johnson, who's the Executive Director of Clarksdale Collegiate, and she has requested public comments.
Thank you. And I have not had the pleasure of meeting every single board member. And so, first of all, my name is Amanda Johnson. I have the privilege of being the founder and executive director of Clarksdale Collegiate Public Charter School. It is the first charter school that opened outside of Jackson. We operate in the Mississippi Delta, and we are proud to be there and serve scholars and families in the Mississippi Delta who have long been underserved. So I do plan on sticking around after the board meeting. I would love to be able to say hello, introduce myself to you if I have not had the opportunity to meet you. But thank you so much, Chairman, for giving me an opportunity to speak before you guys. So my original plan today was to come before you. I know you have the performance framework results on the agenda today, and my goal was just to come to you and highlight a few things that we're particularly proud of, and to give you an opportunity to ask any questions of us. I do want to just go ahead and address the financial presentation that you received at the beginning of the meeting. I did have an opportunity to already meet with Dr. K, Mr. Tolliver, I'm sorry, I don't remember your last name, and with Ms. Johnson. And so there has been some context provided around the going concern that was there, that was not provided to you this morning. So I do want to just give you an understanding of that. And for those of you that have been around the board, at least a year, you'll know that we've talked about building a high school facility for a couple years now. And so we've talked about securing finance for our high school building to serve our scholars who we have in 7th through 12th grade, who are already in our schools right now. We have 7th through 9th grade right now operating on a temporary campus. And we've had plans in the works for some time now to build a permanent high school. And one of the barriers for building the high school is having a letter of good standing from this board. And so I came to this, to the staff, at least I know I have documented evidence of coming to the staff at least February of last year. And we never had a conversation or moved it forward until July of last year, right before our initial loans were set to mature. And so one of the things with getting a loan is just you have to be able to show that you have a contract with an authorizing body, and that and that you are going to be in existence so that you could take on long-term debt. So we have had a plan in place. We've been trying to move forward, and actually the interactions and being able to show that we do have a contract and are in good standing have been part of the trouble of getting the long-term financing. So when we built the K-6 building, we took on about $5 to $6 million of debt with the understanding, our lenders understood that we would refinance that debt when we built the high school building. So our conversations with our current lenders have been around financing the high school building and refinancing the $5 to $6 million of debt. They have been a part of this conversation from the start. We have great lenders who are completely knowledgeable of our academics, our finances. I submit quarterly reports to this board. I also submit quarterly reports to my lenders as well. I submit academic updates to them, and we do all of that. So it is not a surprise, and it shouldn't have been a surprise to the staff or to the board, because we've been talking about building this high school and the debt that we have in front of us. So it's not something that wasn't communicated or should have caught anybody off guard. And so I do ask that the board take action today to, one, update our financial formats to follow the frameworks in place. And I'll just note that we said that we scored meets expectations on most of the indicators. The other indicator that we scored fails to meet expectations was around short-term debt. So essentially, when we came into this year, our auditor said, okay, your loans for the K-6 building mature on May 1st, 2026. So now that is short-term liability. So we went from being in the green in years past for that being a part of the part of red, because you're right, we don't have $5 million. We never intended on closing out those loans. We were always intending on refinancing. And again, that has been part of our conversation. So I will be coming to this board asking for a letter of good standing in the coming months as we go to finalize that. However, if we are not in good standing, if there are measures like this that are in the way, that essentially is going to stand in the way of us refinancing these loans and closing that. So when Ms. Johnson said, if we're going to be meeting, and if there's anything this board can do or the staff can do to help change our standing and to be successful, the only thing that's standing in the way is that we need to refinance those loans. And so we did receive an email on Friday evening saying that a notice of breach was coming. So I wasn't sure if that was for finances or for academics, but I did want to at least point out those things around finance. And I know my time is coming to an end very soon, but I did also want to just say academically, there are a lot of things that I hope you guys will spend time and pay attention to the performance frameworks. There are a lot of things that you're going to see from Clarksdale Collegiate from last year to this year that have gone from orange to green, which is the meets expectations, or even gone from meets expectations to exceeds expectations. I definitely want to point out the continued literacy strength. So we stand out in literacy in our area, outperforming all of the district schools and getting growth where we literacy has stood out as a growth area completely. Also moving to exceeds expectations in academic readiness, being well over 50% for third grade initial passing from the district that we're compared to, which landed us in the exceeds expectations. And then lastly, exceeds expectations with growth. So there's quite a bit there. We acknowledge that the accountability grade is still a D, but I also, just like I've said before, is making sure that you go into deep to understand what that D is, and knowing that we don't yet have high school grades where a lot of districts have the acceleration points, and that's how they are able to bring up those grades. So I just want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to know that I'm in the room, whether it's during the meeting, whether it's after the meeting, to answer any questions that you have, even some of the things that are there on the performance framework. I think a lot of times the conversation and just asking details about that. There's something in there about a complaint that a parent made. I actually sat down and met with the parent a couple of weeks ago just to say, hey, I know this came up last year. We're implementing the corrective action plan. How's it going for you? how is it working? Any other concerns that I need to hear? So it's easy to see just a few negative things that are on the performance framework, but if you look in deeper, there's so many things to celebrate about our school, about our scholars, about our families, about our team. They're doing great work in an area that has been underserved for a number of years. I'm going to pass out, I did make a one-pager, well, two, front and back, one-pager with a few highlights, and then also on the back, if you want to reach out to Jen Mohead, who's our development director, for a tour or to visit, or if you want to email me to have a conversation about data. I like to geek out on data and I like to brag on our kids. If you want to hear about our ninth graders' ACT scores, they just took the ACT for the first time. Happy to tell you about it. So my information is there if you want to talk.
Thank you so much, Ms. Johnson. Our final request for public comment comes from Ms. Delissa Hutton, who's the Vanguard Ambassador of SR1 CPA. She has requested time on our agenda. And did I have your title correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Cheers. I have Vanguard Ambassador of SR1 CPA.
I'm an ambassador. I'm actually with the parent organization SR1.
Thank you.
I'll let Ms. Johnson finish, so I won't interrupt her. No, you're fine. It's always good to share great news. I would like to thank the board and the staff for allowing me time to speak today. SR1 College Preparatory and STEM Academy is Mississippi's first and only STEM and college prep charter school that has been approved by the board. We actually will receive our first accountability rating this year. We are third graders and they are performing very well. At our beginning of year assessment, close to 60% of our students showed that they were at or above grade level, so we're happy about that. And I also wanted to discuss some of the issues that were presented today and to clear up some things. And if anybody has any questions after the meeting, I'll be happy to answer those. Our auditor provided SR1 CPSA with a clean audit, which means it's unmodified. That's the best audit you can receive from an audit. Also on October 31st, 2025, some additional financial statements were requested, and we did present those, in which showed that financially we are in good standing. Also on November the 4th, Dr. K, the authorizer CPA, Mr. Tolliver, Ms. Johnson, our auditor from CLA, Clifton, Larson, and Allen, and also several SR1 CPSA board members met to discuss the audit. During that meeting, our auditor notified those who were on that our short-term and long-term health were in good standings. She answered any questions that there were to be provided. And then additionally, on our framework that was provided, we are at approaches expectations on all indicators, our short-term and our long-term health, but we received a failed to meet. So we're at approaches expectations on everything, but we received a failed to meet with that. And so we're also requesting that can be reviewed and adjusted. Won't repeat, but as has always been noted, that has irreversible consequences on the school. And so we would just request that. And just so you know, the additional information that was requested and provided on the 31st included all financial bank statements and reconciliations up until September of this year. So the whole school year up until September 2025 were provided. So that's July 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2025. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hutton, it's always good to hear from SR1. I think the next thing on our agenda, after public comments, is consideration for discussion items, and I will turn that back over to
Dr. K, that's fine with me. Thank you, board, for discussion today. You have before you SR1 CPSA. As Ms. Hutton has just alluded to, we did find some serious concerns in terms of their financial health for this year. As you know, in my communication to you all via email, they have 1 day cash on hand at the end of the year last year in FY25. 1 day cash on hand and $3,000 in the bank. You cannot operate or run successfully a charter school with $3,000 in the bank. Additionally, they submitted their first quarter financials, which did not indicate any significant increase in their cash. And in fact, it rounds out to about $18 or 18 days cash on hand with about a little over $20,000. Again, you cannot run and operate and pay your bills on 18 days cash on hand. The school has failed to meet their enrollment targets, and you heard from Tolliver and you heard from Letitia earlier today. One of the primary drivers, in fact, the primary driver of revenue for charter schools and for traditional schools is your enrollment. If you are projecting 200 and you only enroll 80, the State Department of Education is going to come back the following year, reconcile those dollars, and you are going to see less money for the following year. That compounds year after year after year when you fail to meet your enrollment targets. There are multiple indicators that we look at as the authorizer. Not only do we use our framework and the framework guidance, which clearly includes language around the use of professional judgment. It requires us to use professional judgment, which we have done multiple times this year in light of the current situations at several of our schools with respect to their financial health. At this point in time, I would like for the board to consider some conversation around the success or potential success of the SR1 CPSA continuing to operate as a public charter school in the state of Mississippi. You have all heard from me. I've spoken to each one of you individually about my concerns about this school. I've spoken with you individually about the challenges that some of our schools are facing. You all know that although I didn't say it earlier, you all know that we talked about what a going concern meant. We talked about what that meant with respect to another one of our schools. We talked about the timing issues on schools that have a debt default or schools that have a going concern. And we've talked in great detail about what that means and what that means even in terms of a school trying to get additional funding. You also know that should that debt be called in for another school in May, as it is right now, the school's not positioned to pay off that debt. We don't have control over what the lenders do or do not do. We don't have a guarantee as to whether or not they're going to continue to support that school or not. What we hope is they do. We want all of our schools to be successful. We want them to get the monies. We want them to be able to work with the lenders. So that's of course, our goal and what we want to happen at the end of the day. Again, you as a board have a fiduciary responsibility to make judgment calls on the financial health of the schools. The financial health of a charter school is the number one reason a charter school fails. So at this time, I would turn it over to Dylan and see if he has anything else he'd like to add to the potential discussion around the health of SR1 CPSA.
So at this point, I think what Dr. K is requesting here is that y'all consider issuing and initiating the process for revocation review. You're not closing the school today, or you don't have to in the future, but this is just a serious consideration of where they're at financially at this time, organizationally and academically. So all that would entail is a corrective action plan, looking to the future at what they can do to remedy the situation, if there's desire to remedy the situation, or if they want to walk away, it's up to the school. It would just be a step for the board to work collectively and trying to find a way to put these schools into a better financial situation. If y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
What's that timeline typically like?
So the revocation review, we would go into it today, and then we would set some deadlines in our notice where they would be required to provide some information. Their corrective action plan usually would date out through the months ahead. And, hopefully we could meet again in January and then have some more details then and kind of see where we're at. And if we're wanting to move forward on the corrective action plan, look again in April, if not May, later in the year, or if, it's a lot, it's very dependent on the school as well, how they cooperate with us.
Is the process timeline wise with the idea of one way or the other, knowing where you're going into the next academic year,
That'll be-
tying up
that'll be
those
the hopes.
loose ends
That'll
before
be the
then?
hopes for the kids to at least have an idea prior to August next year, July.
And we're talking just about SR1.
That's right.
And I'd love to hear what their thoughts are.
Well, that's the point of this is we would, issue this review and have an opportunity to meet with them and do those things and all that in the future. That way they're not off the cusp responding and we give them the actual things we're looking at here. It's not just off the framework report. It's on more than that.
For what it's worth, this is a really big issue.
Mhm.
Dr. K shared it with the board that just before Thanksgiving, the State Board of Education had to place Okolona into a district of transformation because their financial health was very similar. No cash on hand, inability to pay, to make payroll. When you have that, then you don't have teachers who are going to come to work. Then you don't have students receiving the education that they deserve. So, and it's an issue because boards themselves are not holding themselves accountable of what's happening within the schools. I think there are concerns statewide that this is a bit of an issue. Post-COVID, deadlines changing, but that accountability piece of making sure funds are being used adequately and they're planning ahead. Just making you all aware of the statewide issue that this is a big deal.
Any other questions, any other discussion?
Do we know what the current cash on hand is?
Yes, sir. I think it was $27,000. Is that right? Or 24? $24,000 right now as of first quarter. And just to reiterate what Dylan said, this is just about the framework. These are continuing concerns around enrollment, obviously, which drives the financial health of the school. The fact that Letitia mentioned earlier, SR1 will not lose $1 million, but the State Department of Education will come back and reconcile, or has already come back and reconciled those dollars from last year from over projecting and then not enrolling. They have not met their enrollment target since they've been operational. Current enrollment is 103, I believe. No, but maybe 80. I might misspoke. Maybe it is 87. I have two different schools in my head right now, which I don't want to
Showing
misspeak.
87 on last year.
87 last year, so 103 maybe this year. 103, that's right, 103 right now. Now, their projected enrollment for next year, I believe, is 300. We just turned that into the State Department just a week ago.
That would change the whole.
But I would say, out of curiosity, based on what? That's a 200 increase.
What is it based on?
What is it based on? That
Their-
enrollment
their-
jump?
Their contracted enrollment. Their projected enrollment.
Yeah, but how are they projecting that, I guess, is doubling, more than doubling where they currently are? Do we-
I can't,
we don't have that
can't,
information.
I can't tell you how
The
they
desire to have
project
that.
it, but I can tell, do you have it pulled up? For 27, yes. She's getting it right now, then we can tell you exactly what the projected enrollment is.
If that's correct, it would change the whole dynamic.
That's a lot
It-
of enrollment increase.
375.
So-
375. 375.
When we grant a
So-
charter, they give us an enrollment and
So when you get a charter, you get, yes, you get an enrollment table and you project out for your 5-year contract. So let's say you're going to start with kinder, and you're going to have a couple of sections of kindergarten, and you're going to project, 75 kids or whatever, 50 kids, 25 in each class, whatever. And then you project out over your years of operation. Then we use those numbers, and then the self-reported numbers are confirmed by the local school, submitted to us, and then we turn those in to the State Department of Education, which then in turn turns and asks the legislature for this amount of money to fund all of the schools in the state of Mississippi. So not just our schools, but all of the schools. And so what happens is whenever we overproject or a school overprojects that number and they don't enroll, which trends have told us that they're not going to meet those targets, then that becomes a financial issue the next year. And then it compounds itself the following year. So the first year they may have lost, if I recall, $900 and some thousand. Then the following year was maybe $500,000. And then for this year, right at another $1 million. So that's operational. What happens is they're operating using state funds, and then the state is pulling them back the following year and pulling out those monies. So when they don't meet their enrollment targets, and we have other schools that have not met their enrollment targets. We have one that's not met their enrollment variance for 4 consecutive years. Those are things that we have to follow, and we have a duty and obligation to do so because they do impact the financial health of the school. So to your point, Mr. Carney, just projecting it doesn't mean that it's going to happen, and so it doesn't really change the dynamic.
And at a minimum, like, they just add on a grade band.
That's right.
Typically, that's right.
So,
4th to 5th grade if they don't have 5th yet.
Right. And some schools that are out to their 5 years, like they don't change their enrollment. Yeah. So let's say they have one school we have in maybe, in the Jackson area. Their projection is going to be 560 every single year because they're not adding a grade, they're not decreasing a grade, they're meeting their enrollment targets. And so they're going to project, and then they're going to budget pretty closely to that or a little under, knowing that and then they're going to be in good stead, that they're budgeting correctly, projecting correctly, knowing on their, what their enrollment trends have been. And some schools make adjustments. They realize that they're not meeting those enrollment targets, and they will submit a budget amendment request, and then the board will consider that budget amendment and then make adjustments there as well. So budgeted enrollment, projected enrollment, actual enrollment, all of those things are a little bit different, and they play a different role at a different time in the life cycle of the school. So it can get a little tricky to follow.
Are there other questions?
On follow up one, there at some point there being discussions about them doing a downward projection, measurement, did that happen?
Yes, sir, they did. Yes, sir, they did. They did a budget amendment request, and they lowered or reduced that projection. However, the information we got from them this year was a higher number. So,
We asked why that was.
That was the last year thing when they mentioned.
yes, sir,
Maybe
last
2
year.
years.
Hmm?
Was it 2 years ago or last year?
I think it was last year. I'd have to go back and look.
Sounds right. Yeah, I think it was last year.
I would just be
Yes.
curious of why they projected higher numbers when
Yeah.
they didn't meet their initial one. Did we ask why?
Yeah, I can speculate, but I can speculate why they do those, but I don't know what their rationale is. What's interesting to me is if you pull up the enrollment right now and you look at that school in particular, their kindergarten and their first grade numbers are higher than their second grade numbers and their third grade numbers. So what that says to me is potentially they're not staying. So the recurrent enrollment is not there for that particular school. So maybe they come in at kinder, they stay first, and then they leave at second and third grade. Significant numbers. And I have all of those numbers for all the schools. If anybody would like those, I can pull those up. But that is, you want your kiddos to matriculate through and stay over time, obviously. So
If there are no more questions, I will entertain a motion on beginning the revocation review process for SR1 CPSA.
I move we begin the revocation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that, Aaron Meyer.
Thank you both.
Does that require anything more specific than that?
Yeah, we probably need to have it worded.
Can I get you to, don't read below the line, but if we can make it a little more cleaner there.
So what do I need to do?
Can you read it?
What do I need to do here? Sign? What do I need to do?
Just read the motion.
This?
All that, chicken scratch.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion as it relates to SRI. SRI continues to fail to comply with applicable laws, regulations, and the terms of the charter contract based on the review of performance framework, which shows that SRI was 1 day of cash on hand. The current enrollment variance fails to meet expectations. The current year total margin is negative, a negative cash flow. Both fail to meet expectations. Their statutory year 2025 audit was returned 29 days late, which is in violation of the charter contract. After review of first quarter financials, there is no indication of progress towards remedying the consensus set forth above. Therefore, I move for revocation review.
So there's our motion, and Aaron will second. Any discussion, questions? Any discussion or questions, I should say?
For Jay.
Started the process of review, is that correct?
That's correct.
And
Ms.
the option at the end of this process could be termination, but it also could be coming off of revocation should they be able to approve, certain items and correct certain things. Is that right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Carney, the numbers that I have that I was referring to earlier. So for this year, as of November 4th, this is the month 1 enrollment that'll be used next year in the framework report. The kindergarten membership for SR1 is 32. First grade is 36. Second grade drops off to 16, and third grade is at 19. So the other schools, just for comparison, they run 78, 84, 82, 89, 81, 101, 117, 128, 128. Very comparable in terms of consistency over the grades, where this one takes a nosedive to half after they've been with this school for a couple of years. Think others are fairly consistent. A couple of hiccups maybe here or there, but not anything significant like this particular school.
I understand we gotta have confidence in what they're doing to do the right things, and we want them to do the right things.
Right.
And I just was curious from Letitia, is that, I just was curious, you know, you had 200, you didn't have but 87 on this report, and then the number's higher, you know, where did that come from? And
So this year we amended to 150, and we were doing, the board approved us to have 50 for K, 50 for first, 25 for second, and 25 for third. That's what the, authorized board
gotcha.
allowed us to have last year. That was what
All right,
the-
Ms. Hutton, thank you. You'll need to wait to be recognized. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have to recognize to keep order in the meetings. Okay, so we have, so far we have a motion and we have a second. If there's not any more discussion are there any other discussion items for board members?
Can I ask one other question, please?
Yes, sir.
What, John, maybe this is for you, maybe this is Lisa, there was discussion about a timeline of what this would look like moving forward. Can you provide some clarity on that? If this motion is passed, what the school can expect in terms of, and what we can expect in terms of the initial sit down, the attempts to resolve some of these issues? I'm concerned and just want to make sure that timeline is clear from our standpoint and also from the school standpoint, so they know what will come in down the line.
Yeah, certainly. So as soon as this is voted on and approved on, they'll get a letter notifying them of this. And in that, it will have a timeline set out with dates for them to provide documentation to us as well as to meet with us. I think the first date's going to be probably right before Christmas, the 23rd. And then we'll move and review from there and probably circle back at the beginning of January and try to get ready for that first board meeting to have an update for everyone and then continue on from there if necessary.
I want to give a few specifics of the things that we're going to be looking for. I think it might be helpful.
I don't have the letter in front of me, but
Well, I got,
it's a laundry list of stuff though, Ben. It's not just general. It's very specific and pointed so we can have
Ben,
an
I
idea.
can give you a little bit more detail here on some of the things that we'll be looking for. Just to answer your question there. So let me pull that up. So if the board were to approve, was I said that? That's the wrong document. Let me get to-
But to answer that, yes, we'll be asking for a lot of clarity and things that will give us some answers to outstanding questions we have on our end in terms of their financials.
Let me get to Dylan's email here.
And just,
Go ahead.
you mind if I say something?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
and just, I guess it's kind of to Jay, from earlier with you, I guess a response to your question. So Clarksdale Collegiate had been in the same process about a year or two ago, and so they're no longer in revocation for review for that. So it's one of those things of you can, just because you start the process, you
There's a
can come
light at the end
out.
of the
Yeah.
tunnel,
Yes.
one way or the
I
other.
just want to be fair. I certainly.
Yeah.
need
Well, yeah, that's
confidence.
why we're going through this process. We're not just, that's why we're not pulling the plug today, right? I mean, we're going to
Great point. Thank you.
give them an opportunity to be heard and put forth their evidence, but
And that is
ultimately
a
it's in
great
their
point
standpoint.
that Dylan just made. The contract allows for us to do that today.
Yeah.
We have the authority under the contract as a material
Yeah.
finding or a material weakness in their, because of their financial health
Yeah.
and not being able to pay teachers or staff or
Right.
bills. And so we have that authority, but going down a revocation review
We're following the
gives
regulations and
them a
process.
little bit more time to try and
Comply.
comply to some of the things. So Ben, to your, I'm gonna get to some of what we've talked about, required actions. A financial corrective action plan that they maybe everybody can hear me, must be able to submit a comprehensive governing board approved financial corrective action plan. They'll have to directly address each one of the failing concerns and indicators on the framework, including their unrestricted days cash, their enrollment variance, their total margin, their cash flow, their financial reporting. If you remember, they had material weaknesses, how the school will specifically budget and use their internal control issues, evidenced how they will work around those, provide multi-year projections demonstrating how they will achieve and maintain their financial performance and it meets expectation. They'll have to provide promptly respond to any follow-up questions from staff and board, our board, all audits, financial reports, budget submissions, not only to us, but to the State Department of Education in a timely manner. They have had a couple of challenges with the State Department of Education as well. They were unable to secure finances for their pre-K program and were turned away from their 21st Century Grant as well. So the most recent thing you've heard me talk about was the Title I. The Title I monitoring was unable to be completed because they hadn't drawn down any of their Title I monies for last year. They will still be in that monitoring process for going forward. So a significant number of items and things that will be required. And of course, Letitia will meet with them monthly to review reconciliation processes on all of their bank accounts and making sure that the invoices line up and things are paid on a timely manner and out of the appropriate accounts.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Morgan?
Yeah, thank you for that. All that's the kind of stuff that will be communicated, in the letter, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
I know it's a lot, I just want to make sure, that if this moves forward, we give them, the right timeline makes sense with all of the moving parts, so that they've got a fair opportunity to respond. And of course, we've got to do our job as this moves forward, but I'm just saying, I want to make sure the timeline makes sense based on all that has to be done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Hunt made the motion. We have a second. Are we ready to, Dylan, do we need to read it again or you think we're
That's
good?
good.
Okay, we're ready to move. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Our next order of business is to consider the approval to file the amendment to the Call for Quality Schools Timeline 2026 as final in accordance with the APA, the Secretary of State's office. I will entertain a motion to approve this APA filing. Please identify yourself for the record.
Erin Meyer, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Candace Hunt, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Well, I guess maybe
Sorry.
just kind of go through what the updates. I think I see them on here, but.
This is just.
Yeah, this is just
Final, we
a
already
this is a
Okay,
formality.
well,
We changed the date through an emergency
Which I saw,
rule.
okay.
And this is just so that
Final
the Secretary of
approval.
State will be happy with us and
Yeah.
will stay in their good graces.
And
What is it, a
we-
30 timeline?
We extended that so we'd have data from
Yeah.
MDE.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then,
'Cause I missed the last
I
one,
mean,
so.
just as a heads up moving forward, it's
Probably me
probably
later.
safe for next year to like keep
Yeah, we're gonna.
in October versus September, just
Okay.
because
Okay.
those results usually are towards the end of
October, sometimes September. Yeah, but.
Yes.
Yeah,
We've been trying to. get
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Just making sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And then the only other thing is y'all have all been provided the final performance framework reports for the school year for 2024 and 2025. I hope y'all had a chance to review those. If y'all have any questions.
Yeah, and so this is the same framework that Dr. Shaw and Amanda and Shakika Shakita, I
Mm-hmm.
apologize, was speaking on wanting to move their ratings to meet expectations.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. Yep, those are the final. I don't believe we have any consideration for executive session. So our next regular meeting will be on January the 26th, 2026 at 1 PM at 239 North Lamar Street, Suite 207, Jackson, Mississippi, 39201. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Please identify yourself for the record.
Erin Myers, so moved.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Candace Hunt, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
I have a question. So how would we, I feel like I missed, everything happened so fast. I thought we were gonna go through each individual thing. How would we have been able to address, I guess,